This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so we're, well, first of all, welcome. Welcome, Larry. It's good to see you again. This is Seek the Source. And I guess we've been trying to do this for a little while, and various technical difficulties, losing power, I think, in your house.
Yeah, the condo that I'm staying.
Are you still there now, or?
Still there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're
Power's back. The air conditioner doesn't work, but
Oh, well, at least it's not, 106 yet,
no, it's not.
and that's a good thing. I think I decided at the beginning of each of these stories, I sort of wanted to state, and this is for me, it's my own, shall we say, vision statement, and it kind of, maybe it'll help set the tone. I don't know. It's the way I try to live each day, and it's simply put this, or simply this, it's to live this present moment on the razor's edge of complete surrender. And I think that says it all for me. And as my life and spiritual path has unfolded over the last maybe 20, 25 years, I was forced into that position. And I've become comfortable living in the question mark of not knowing. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But today we have Larry, Larry Kinn. He's a friend of mine for, I don't know, probably more than 25 years, I think.
Long time.
Yeah, and I think you and I really started getting kind of serious on this path. If I recall, it was at that couples retreat we attended. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember it very well. That's
Yeah.
key part of my story.
Oh, okay.
You helped
Well,
launch me.
yeah, well, yeah, I can't even remember what year that was. So, but I'm sure you'll fill us in. I guess first of all, thank you for doing this. Your story is incredible. Before you get going, I was going to bring this to everyone's attention. This is a book Larry has written. It's I just wanted to feel okay. What a wonderful title, and it's I just wanted to feel okay. A Journey to Awakening, published by, I believe, Outskirts Press. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, John.
And they can get the book at outskirtspress.com
or Amazon.
Or Amazon. Yeah, okay. And so once again, thank you very much. And this is Larry's spiritual story, so I'll let you take it from here.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, I may interrupt once in a while because I may relate to it so well that I might have to make a comment.
That's good. That's quite all right.
So take it away.
Okay. I'm very glad to be here, and thank you, John. And for those of you that are watching, this is my story, my path to self-realization, awakening, enlightenment, whatever concept words you want to use. I prefer to call it my journey to peace and contentment. That's what I've wanted ever since I can remember, but it seemed very elusive. So before we get into it, I really want to mention something from a background status. There isn't anything unique about me. There isn't anything really unique in the things that truly went on in my life. Things that occur. There's the great things, the wonderful things, and there's the devastating, disastrous things. And it happens to be the path of life. And for me, though, it was just confirmation that I was a victim, that I was a martyr, that life, the world, God, you name it, was out to get me. And somehow I had to conquer this and plan to be something. So why would I want to be something? So as a little kid, I grow up, and I have an older brother and sister for all practical purposes, although I was an only child. My brother and sister are about 12 and 15 years older than me. Actually, I don't even remember them as a child. But in my home, we had some definite dysfunction going on. My dad was a weekend alcoholic. He never touched a drop during the week. The weekends were disastrous. My mother suffered from depression and was somewhat of a religious zealot. So you got a really difficult combination there. I don't think my mother, who was older at the time, was really prepared nor capable to raise a child. But voila, there I was.
Yeah.
So for all of us, and again, it's not just me. We are conditioned beings, and as kids, our conditioning really starts. I mean, it starts at home. It starts with our parents. It's family, friends, community, church, school, whatever it may be. All these things help us, good, bad, or indifferent, to start forming opinions and beliefs about who and what we are. And that foundational belief will take you on in how you deal, react, or not deal with the things that occur in your life. So the conditioning is part of everything. It's a part of the human condition, so to speak, and it's kind of what we do. And I think all of you are probably aware, before your teenage years, your personality is already pretty much set. How you're going to view and how you're going to carry forth those foundational beliefs and things, they're already there. So in my family, briefly, I told you my dad was a weekend drinker. So no alcohol during the week, but there was this constant anticipation and fearful buildup during the week as it got closer to Friday. Because as I got older, I knew what was coming. I didn't know when it was going to come. I didn't know how it was going to come. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but it was going to come. And it was going to be scary, fearful, disastrous. And I'm pretty sure my mom felt the same way. As I said, she suffered from depression. She cried a lot. As a little kid, I'm the only one there. So I'm looking around. It's me. It's mom crying. Must be my fault. I must be doing something wrong as a child.
Yeah.
So my mother, as a religious zealot, didn't help that a whole lot, because with these things going in my home, I threw a lot of temper tantrums as a small child. I was unruly. I was a bedwetter. My mom let me know that God was going to punish me. She would say things like, "You are the bad seed, and because of you, I'm not going to be able to go to heaven." And these things over and over and over again instill this belief that I am a terrible, terrible child. There's something wrong with me. God's going to punish me. How do I fight this? What do I do? How can I overcome this? And I remember thinking at one time, I'm 6 years old and I'm going, how bad can I be? I'm 6 years old. How terrible can I actually be? But these things keep getting reinforced, and the fear. So a couple things I want to point out that developed for me that were very key foundationally. Because of this buildup to my father's weekend binges, I started to have this belief that I had to plan for the unexpected. I was fearful of the unexpected. I did not like the unknown. I wanted to know everything that was going to happen in the future. Now, how's that going to work for you? It's not going to bode well.
Yeah.
But I try to plan for events. I try to figure out how I'm going to protect myself, how I'm going to survive this, how I'm going to be okay. And it didn't matter what it was as I went on through life. This was one key aspect that followed me everywhere.
So
The other thing that followed me was that I was a person of little or no worth. I was the bad seed. I deserved to be punished. God was going to punish me. God was watching me all the time. As my mother said, he knew all my thoughts. And if I had a bad thought anyway, I would have to account for that at some time in the hereafter. So there was this tremendous fear and guilt and shame also going forward. I think you were going to ask a question or something,
Yeah,
John.
yeah. I was going to ask, like, so would your father then on the weekends be physically uh, abusive to you and your mother?
At times, it was
So it
more.
was,
There were the physical altercations. It was more screaming, violence. You can imagine somebody overly drunk, your father throwing up on you
oh, wow.
around the house.
Yeah,
It was, and this was every weekend,
yeah,
and literally, I mean every weekend.
okay,
And
yeah.
so
No,
that's it was a fearful buildup. You knew it was coming.
just I get it when and how, and that's sort of the point of the razor's edge of complete surrender.
Yeah, it was. And the interesting thing too is it was a key thought. I remember my mom saying that somehow God was recording all my thoughts. Now,
Oh, yeah,
as a
yeah,
kid growing up, I was not real fond of my father. I was not real fond of my mother, and
yeah.
I thought about that a lot. I said some things in my thoughts that were really pretty nasty about both of them. So I'm prepared. I'm going to pay for this anyway. I'm
So
going
go
to
ahead.
hell, and God hates me. So let's have it. Let's go.
All right. Okay. Please
So,
continue.
so we go forward. And as a kid, I somehow try to adopt this persona outwardly that I'm confident, that I'm competent, that I've got my act together, and also being a little bit aloof because I want to keep people at arm's length. I don't want anybody getting too close because they might find out what I'm really like, and they might find out the deep, dark secrets that are there, that I'm
Sure,
really a fraud, a phony, and I have no worthwhile self-esteem.
sure.
So this carries forward in my life. So my goal, I've got to find something that validates me, something that gives me worth. Somehow I've got to let people and the world know I can do things. I am confident. I can go forward. So I'm moving along and in through school, and I turn out to be pretty good in athletics, and especially baseball.
Can
And I
relate.
go through
Can relate.
my years, and we win a lot of games, and I'm becoming somewhat of a little local legend in my area. And by my senior
Beautiful.
year in high school, I'm slated to be a top round draft choice for the major league draft.
Awesome.
So the fall of my senior year, however, I'm playing in a pickup football game, and I hurt my knee,
Yeah,
and I have surgery before the senior season.
yeah,
And immediately I'm told by the scouts that I've fallen from a top round draft choice to a lot lower rounds. So
sure.
this is pretty devastating.
Yeah,
But I don't. I pick myself up, so to speak, and I go forward. I complete my senior year. I am drafted, but I
great.
elect to take a college scholarship instead.
Good.
So I start on my college baseball career.
Mm.
Um, I'm going to a school in Michigan, and I move away from home, which was wonderful because I'm away
You
from
love that one, huh?
that environment. It's like, wow, got that one behind me.
Yeah.
So I start my baseball career, and first year goes pretty well, and I meet a girl in school there, and voila, she tells me she's pregnant.
Well,
So I'm 20 years old. She's 18 years old. I can barely take care of myself. I have no idea how I'm going to be a husband and a father and how we're going to do this, but okay, here we go. So uh, we get married, and we continue on through college. And my junior year in college, after that, I had really good season, and I am drafted again,
awesome.
drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. You ought to know something about Pittsburgh, John.
Hey,
And so I signed with the Pirates, and it's like, okay, here we go. Major leagues, here I come.
dang.
Money, fame, baseball card with my name on it.
Hey, you're going to the show.
I'm gonna arrive, and I am gonna be something and somebody.
Yeah.
And so I joined the Pirates farm system, and my first season, I have a really good year. I'm a left-handed pitcher. They put me in a relief role, and I have to say I had an outstanding first year until the
Beautiful.
very end of the season when I'm running wind sprints in the outfield and I stepped in a hole,
Oh,
and I totally tore my knee apart. And after a couple surgeries and trying to come back into spring training the next year and going forward, I couldn't recover from the injury. And I
wow.
was released and my baseball career was over.
Oh, man.
So devastation one more time. And it's like, well, here we go. I should have known. I should
Yeah.
have known. I was so close. I was so close. So my wife and I, moved forward. I finished my degree and I'm going to start a career in business. Now I'm going to be businessman of the year, right? I'm going to arrive.
We're going to
I'm,
arrive again,
I'm going to arrive again. I don't know where I'm going to arrive, but
but
by
I'm
golly,
coming.
I'm going to do it. So I take my first job, and I'm with a major corporation. And first couple of years are going pretty well, and I'm moving forward. I'm getting promoted, spending a lot of time at work, a lot of time planning. Right, I'm trying to figure out the next 30 years and how I'm going to do it. Well, in the meantime, I guess I didn't look close enough, but my marriage was falling apart.
Mm.
Now it's my wife and I, and I've got three small children. And
Oh,
eventually it not only was falling apart, it fell apart.
yeah.
And we were divorced. So I'm very shameful, very guilty. This was my fault. I take it that this happened, although it always takes two, right? And I was a husband and I'm a father, and I had those identities. Now I see myself, I'm not a husband, I'm not a father. My kids are gone. My wife packed up, took the kids. She went back to her hometown.
So is this still sort of like I'm the bad seed and
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
absolutely, it's one more time. And I mean, thank God I found something called alcohol, because
Ooh,
it helped to ease the pain,
yeah.
and it helped put the shame and things in its place.
Okay.
So I picked myself up, continue working. I put more and more effort into it, but now I'm really obsessed with going forward.
Mhm.
And I've got to plan my job, and if things are going well the next couple of years, but ultimately, John, I'm right back where I was. I'm discontent.
Yeah.
I've got this hole in me, and so I must not have found the right job. I must not have had the big enough house. It must not be enough money. I never really wanted to buy anything. I wanted the prestige that went along
Yeah.
with quote
Yeah.
unquote making it.
Yeah. No, I get
So
that.
I follow
I
this
get that.
along, and every couple of years, if things don't go according to Larry's plan
Yeah.
about the company and what they ought to do with me,
Mhm.
I hat up and I move on. I
Ah,
find another company, and
yeah.
I'm constantly in search of the brass ring. I'm continuing to move up. I'm doing well, and this
Yeah.
pattern continues of discontent. I remarry again, and wonderful woman. We're together today somehow. Uh, as you'll see in the future, not quite sure how that happened, but
Yeah.
we are together, and she's my best friend. And we moved a lot. We moved a lot because I'm always in search. I'll point out one thing, and I don't want to get in too much detail about that, but I did think at one point I did reach the pinnacle. I was recruited by a Fortune 100 company to
Yeah.
run and start a huge division for this company. And I was given a contract, and we went lots of money. I mean, a lot of money, stock options, prestige, all the really, really cool stuff. Larry's arrived. I've finally gotten here.
You did it, brother.
And the company's doing well, and we're moving along with the startup. I buy two other companies, acquire them, and mold them into the division I'm running. And year three, I get a call from my boss, and he said, Larry said, I just want to let you know we're selling your division.
Oh,
And it's like, okay, all right. And he said, but the new owner wants to put his own people in.
oh, wow.
So we will honor the end of your contract, but you're out. We're going to have to let you go. So this really rocked me, because I thought this was it. I thought
Yeah.
this was a long-term stay where Larry's going to prove to the world just what he is and who he is.
Mhm.
Didn't matter, I just wanted to be the great businessman, because that was going to validate me.
Yeah.
Once again, I turned to alcohol, and it helps. It helps. It puts the fears and everything at bay, and I've been out of a job for about a year, John, while I'm searching for a new one. And I'm drinking a lot while I'm looking for the new job. And I do eventually find one. My wife and I move again. I'm making a lot less money, but I'm more concerned with the future. I get this job and I'm 3 months into it. I'm already looking for the next one because somehow I got to get back to the pinnacle. I've got to define myself. This has got to work. I go through the same situation a couple more times, John. Companies are sold, they're consolidated. I lose my job, and each one is a devastation. But now the past has really come alive to me. It's, you know what? This is the confirmation. It's true. I am damned. Nothing is ever going to work out for me. Every time I get seem like I'm getting ahead, something happens and it's taken away. I am a victim. Life has gone out to is out to get me. God is punishing me, but I'm gonna fight through it. So I continue to try to do this through the next couple jobs. Drinking more and more at the time. The final straw comes with a new little startup division. It's I'm named as a GM, and there's 6 other GMs that are in other little divisions for an independent company who's invested in particular product lines, trying to bring this to market. This job lasted a year, and I'm told they were consolidating all these little divisions because we weren't making enough money. And this really put me over the edge. I mean, I'm drinking a little bit during the day now. I'm drinking, not fall down drunk. I've never been a bar guy, but I'm not present at home either. I'm drinking and I'm somewhere else. I'm wallowing in self-pity. The drink, funny, John, how this works, but now it's not putting the demons away. It's become the demon. And now I can't put that one away. So there's more guilt and there's more shame. And I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to do it. A couple of times I contemplated suicide. Sorry, John, go ahead.
I was going to say, at that point, would you say alcohol turned on you?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It was the demon. And no matter how I tried to control it, I was very, very much aware that I couldn't control it. I was telling my wife I could control it. I know exactly what I'm doing. And she said, I don't think you know what you're doing at all. And I've had enough. If you don't get help, I love you, but I'm out. And I truly loved my wife, and I love her to God's end today, right? And so I knew I had to do something. So I joined a 12-step program.
Right.
And I was scared to death, John, absolutely scared to death, because I don't think I can do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. How am I going to make it without my buddy, without my crutch? What am I going to lean on? I have nothing to stop the fears, to stop the self-loathing. But AA was a huge, huge catalyst for me, because for the first time in my life, I was conditioned again, taught again to start operating from some higher principles, to get out of the me mode, the me first mode, to get out of the victim mode, the martyr mode, and start concentrating on community, on service to others, on honesty and openness. Now, John, being open and honest to other people, especially other men, that's a non-starter. Because those are the dudes that are going to come and get you and put you down, right?
Yeah.
They're all competition. But it was a huge awakening. I found, they're really not like that. And this honesty and sharing things, wonderful. And I began sharing things that were difficult for me to even admit to myself. And it was a huge, huge awakening. But lo and behold, after a few years, the discontent's right there. And I'm going, there's got to be more. Right. There's got to be more. I don't know what it is, but something's missing. There's got to be more. I joined Children of Alcoholics, a support group that helps people who were traumatized by alcoholism in their home. I joined that. I was in therapy several different times. I even went back to church. I got to tell you a funny story about that. I'm the anti-religion guy, but it's like, I'm going to give this a whirl.
We're going to try it.
We're going to try it. So I'm in church and I'm sitting there on a Sunday and I'm looking around at everybody. Somehow this comes to me and I'm going, everybody in here is holy but me.
Oh, wow.
Everyone in here is connected to God with me, except me. They all get it except me. So I started thinking, you know what? If I could just levitate in front of the people in the church, they would know that I'm a God
Yeah.
person too.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then of course I started laughing to myself. I said, that's not going to happen. So this isn't going to work. So
But
I
I
put the
relate
church
to
up.
that thought.
Oh yeah,
It's a great thought.
it's a great thought. So I put the religion aside.
Oh,
Um, I started doing men's group retreats, and
yeah.
and of course that's where you and I really got close. And
Yeah,
I
we
and,
did.
and I love these things. And the discontent though was still there. And as you mentioned, I remember, John, at one of the retreats, we're talking, and of course I'm lamenting about how I just can't seem to get there, and I'm trying all these things, and somehow I'm missing it, and I don't know how I'm ever gonna get there. And out of nowhere, you looked at me and you said, Larry, everything you're looking for, you already are. And I don't know, some reason I was just in shock. I didn't know whether to laugh at you,
Yeah.
slap you for making fun of me. I didn't know what to do. And you said, I want you to read this book. I want you to read this book by Dr. David Hawkins called Power versus Force.
Right.
And so I took your advice and I did. And I was absolutely blown away. I
Yeah.
was just, it knocked my socks off, because some things for the first time started really making sense, with Hawkins talking about the true determinants of human behavior, and
Sure.
how we handle things or not handle things in our life. He introduced me to the concept of non-duality, or
Right.
as we refer to it, awareness, consciousness, now, God, whatever you want to call it. They're all
Right.
synonyms for the same thing.
Sure.
And I loved it. I loved the idea of non-duality. And I mean, it was difficult for me to get the concept, and I loved some of the examples. One of the, or two of them that really struck me, was he would talk about, you would have a piece of cardboard, and you'd poke holes in it, poke 100 holes in it, and then
Right.
shine a light through the back of it. And you'd see all these streams of light. And
Right.
all these streams, if they were people, would think they were individual streams.
Mhm.
Look at me, I'm shining, I'm bright. There are my light, and then there's the other lights. And the reality is, it's all the same light. You look behind the cardboard, and there's one light shining
I'm
through
right.
it. The
Yeah.
other example that was used that I absolutely love, um, especially it was kind of apropos, because at this time I'm living by the ocean and I spent a lot of time down there, was looking at the ocean and the waves. There's
Right.
little waves, big waves, crashing waves, gnarly waves, surfing waves, ripples, tide pools. And all of them, if they were people again, would think that they were individual things, and they were all rushing forward, going to the end to come toward the shore. And as they all would hit the shore, what happens? They all recede back into the thing they've always been: water. They've never been anything but water. And I'm going, you know what? I get this. I can see that that's true. Intellectually, I
Yeah.
couldn't experience it, but intellectually I was getting it. The other thing Hawkins said that really struck me, because coming from that religious background, he gave me a different way to look at God. He said, God is the infinite possibility of all things.
Yeah.
And he said, if you think about God at infinite possibility, and the world, the realm that we're in, is nothing but a multitude every millisecond of circumstances and conditions and variables. And he would say, when the variables are correct, when things all come together, the potential will become the actual. And
Right.
it made sense, right? There's always the
Mhm.
potential for a rainstorm. Stuff
Yeah.
comes together, it's going to rain. There's always the potential for an automobile accident. When the variables come together, there's going to be one. And I'm going, you know what? I get that. That makes sense. And then he also said, think of it this way. Think of think of God wanting to know what it's like to be all things.
Yeah.
And he said, think about the fact that you can read about becoming and knowing what it's like to be a doctor. But until you're a doctor, you never really know what it's like to be a doctor. You
Right.
can read about being Chinese, but unless you're Chinese, you really don't know what it's like to be Chinese. So God taking on shape and form to understand and see, you know, the reality of being all these things in form. And I thought, wow, that is a concept I'd never ever heard. That's awesome. So I took off and I read every other Hawkins book. You and
Yeah.
I shared and talked about many of them.
I
Some of
want
them
to
I read
back
more
up
than
though.
once.
I want to back up to what I said to you in that conference or the retreat. And I think I said something like, Larry, you are what you're looking for.
Yes.
I think is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. You said everything you're looking for, you already are.
Yeah, yeah, that was something okay, right.
Yeah. And,
Oh yeah, I
and
remember that now.
so
Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm really into this now. And,
Yeah,
so I'm on the internet and I'm looking for other books and I'm looking at all these teachers and I'm watching Ramesh Balkasar and Nisargadatta
yeah,
and Krishnamurti and Adyashanti and Rupert Spira and I mean on
yeah,
and on and on. Rupert was one of my favorites, and
yeah.
I'm getting a more and more understanding of what's going on here, and I'm excited. I'm excited about
Yeah.
the possibility because now I'm going to get this enlightenment thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get it, and it's going to
I'm getting
solve all
there.
the problems, right? So you and I had discussed, and you told me about an exhibition that was coming called the Buddha Relics, and it
Yes,
was going to be in Florida.
right.
And a couple of us like-minded people got together, and we went. I didn't know what to expect, but as you explained to me, it was the artifacts and a lot of cremated remains from past Buddhas,
Yeah,
and they were on exhibit in a Buddhist temple in Gainesville, Florida, if you remember that.
I do recall.
And I didn't know what to expect, but I walked into the temple, and something, I mean, it just struck me. I
Yeah,
was awestruck. It was like I walked into an electric field. It seemed so thick, and the peace and contentment, you could almost feel it. You could almost put your arms around it. And I just, I sat there, we sat along the wall, and I felt like I had been given anesthesia and I was ready to go under. It was this wonderful feeling. And make a long story short, I mean, I didn't want to leave.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, that energy was so intense.
it was unbelievable. And all of us felt it in a little bit different way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it
I
was
know
sort
my
of
wife was with me.
like whatever you needed, it would give you that
Yeah, yeah,
kind of, or whatever space you were in, it would meet you there.
yeah.
Give you,
It was absolutely incredible. And that was another catalyst for me on the path because now I want that back.
yeah.
I want to figure out a way to get
How
that.
do I get
So
that?
yeah. So before we left, excuse me, I bought a CD there, and
Yeah,
it was a
yeah,
CD of some monks, Buddhist monks,
right.
who were chanting, and there was this just mesmerizing, wonderful music with it. I didn't understand a single word they were
Yeah,
saying. I mean, I
I
didn't
have the
understand the
CD.
language,
I
but I
have
was
that.
mesmerized.
Yeah,
And so I would listen to my teachers on the internet, and I would play this CD, and I would meditate.
yeah,
And some things started, occurring. John, I know we had talked about it. I would have these instances where I could be outside, and all of a sudden, everything seemed so vibrant. I mean, the
yeah,
colors were just so clear, and I felt so connected to everything. And
right,
it was great, but it never lasted more than a few seconds or maybe a
right.
minute, and it would disappear.
Hmm.
At other times, I would be chanting. I wouldn't chant, but I'm listening to the CD, and I would have these instances. This occurred many times where
Hmm.
this overwhelming sense of peace would come over me, and I would feel like I was looking with my eyes closed into this huge dark abyss, and it was
Hmm.
welcoming me. It was
Yeah.
wanting me to leap in, and I wanted to leap in. But then the thought would come up, well, what happens if I do? What does this mean? And immediately, of course, it would go away. Now I'm really frustrated again because I want that feeling back. And it would happen, not every single time, but it would have started happening more and more and more. And one morning I was meditating, and I was just feeling so full of love and joy and peace. And I was sitting in the chair, and my wife came downstairs, and we greet each other with a hug. And this morning, and she gave me a hug, and she said, "Oh my God, I feel this tremendous peace coming off of you." And I'm laughing. I'm going, "Yeah, I know. It's great, isn't it? It's great. It's just great." And of course, then it would leave.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm really obsessed with this now. I've gotten a different job. I actually took a job working for a guy who used to work for me,
Oh,
and
wow.
and it was pretty cool. Things are going well. I lost that feeling of gotta become. I mean, because now I'm going to get enlightened. I don't need the job thing anymore, right? I'm gonna God and I are coming together, baby. We're gonna do this. So, I mean, things are going well, and I'm traveling a lot, which was okay, and being alone in the hotel rooms at night gave me ample time to sit and do nothing but meditate or be on the internet.
Sure.
And I would continue to have these great experiences. And one night in particular, I was meditating, and I had again this overwhelming sense of love and connectedness and peace, and the things I was learning intellectually about non-duality and everything being one, as Jesus said thousands of years ago, "I am in the Father and the Father is in me." And
Yeah.
I'm feeling this feeling, and the thought came to me, and I said out loud, "Oh my God, I am God." And of
Yeah.
course, the old tapes from religion
Yeah.
came back, and it's like, "Oh my, here comes the lightning bolt.
Yeah. Look out.
Look out, I'm going to be done." And of course,
Heavy hit.
it went away. It
Yeah.
went away. And so I continue looking on the internet. I'm totally obsessed with this now. And I'm one of my favorite people to watch at the time was Rupert Spira.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Rupert, and I loved his explanations, and I loved his examples and the way he talked about things. And you and I had discussed many times about wanting things to be experiential, and it's great to understand them, but to actually experience it
Yeah.
on
Big
an
difference.
ongoing basis. I mean, we talked about that many times, and that's what I really wanted. But I was learning more and more intellectually about what this was all about.
I mean,
And
it's
Rupert
like
was always talking about,
it's
sorry?
like you have to understand it intellectually first.
Oh, yeah, because these are not
No,
concepts we're used to dealing with.
no, you had to get like what it's saying first intellectually before you could have it move into a subjective experience. And
Exactly.
I guess I just sort of want to make that point.
No, right.
And um, it goes back to you are what you're looking for.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and you and I also talked many times that, for lack of a better way to phrase it, it can be lonely sometime
Oh
on this
man, it's
path.
terribly lonely.
There's not a lot of people to talk to.
They
You
don't
can't
know.
walk up to somebody on the street and say, "Hey, you realize you're just an appearance in form here, right?" That there
Yeah,
is no past, there is no future. There's
I mean,
only the now and the now and the now, and
and
now it looks like this.
yeah,
Those are difficult conversations to have.
and I think that's an important point to make, particularly in like we had um, an awful lot of experience, many years in 12-step groups, whether it be AA or Al-Anon or whatever it was. I mean, when I would be sharing in those groups around this time, it was, I mean, you could very quickly see these people aren't understanding anything I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it just was like, there's no reason to go. I mean,
That's one
other
of the things,
than,
John, that struck me, as I said, when I felt it was time to move on. I mean,
right.
I went to Al-Anon meetings also. I mean, I tried anything and everything, but it's like, you know what? This stuff is really great, probably saved my life,
Yeah,
but there's a higher
absolutely.
understanding here. And
Yeah,
this isn't coming up to it for me.
exactly. Exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, um, I told you I really loved watching Rupert, and
Yeah.
and Rupert was talking about his relationship with his teacher,
Mm,
and he mentioned a guy by the name of Francis Lucille,
right.
and I had never heard of Francis Lucille, um, but he was talking about teachers all the time, and now all of a sudden it's like I got to have a teacher, got to find a teacher, got to find where am I going to find one? I mean, I couldn't even find a group of people where I lived to talk this thing over with.
I know, much
Where am I
less.
going to find a guru, man?
Yeah, right. Now it's
So I
totally
look up
different.
Francis Lucille. I'm living in Florida. I'm on the east coast of Florida, and I look up Francis Lucille, and it has a list there of, what he's doing, some the books and video casts and things like that, retreats that he's holding. And this is in October of this year, I remember, and he's holding a retreat in Tampa
Oh, wow.
in a couple months period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I talked to my wife, and I said, I'm there. I'm I'm going.
It's
So
not like I'm asking if I can go, right?
no, I said, I'm there. I'm going. Hope you understand.
Right.
She said, by all means. She said, by all means, because she's watching this process,
Sure.
and she likes it. She's was not, and today is not obsessed with that part of the path. I've seen a lot of expansion on her over the course of the years, just being in the aura, so to speak. John, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Being
absolutely.
in the energy,
Yeah.
and it's been wonderful for her. So I go to Tampa, and the first thing I do when I see Francis is I go up to him, and I've seen all your podcasts. I've looked at your books, and I, I'd be honored if you'd be my teacher. and
Yeah.
he just looks at me, and he gives me a hug, and he goes, "It's enough that we just be good friends."
Yeah.
They said, I don't want you to look at me as a teacher and you're a student, because now we have hierarchy. And he said,
Yeah.
we're just friends. We're one here. And I thought, wow, I really,
What a
really like
great,
this guy.
what a great line.
It was
What a,
beautiful. So
what a
the
great way
retreat
to
is,
do
there's probably, what wasn't huge, maybe 30 people, maybe
it.
a few less than that. It was a week-long retreat, but
Wow.
man, everybody is in the zone on this. Everybody
Yeah.
is in the community. They all know what we're talking about. We had
What a
ample
wonderful
time
thing.
to talk and discuss. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. And we would have a session in the morning and then one in the evening with Francis. But to be in that like-minded community, and there are people there that I still keep in touch with today. So I'm listening to Francis, and now I'm really following him pretty much exclusively.
Yeah.
And I leave the retreat, and Francis does a thing on called Meetup, where he would have gatherings and meetings in his place in Temecula, California, and you could join online.
Yeah.
So you could ask questions, and you could submit your questions or statements or anything in advance, and then Francis would talk to you personally, there. So I was doing a combination of that, and I went on a few other personal retreats with Francis,
Wow.
and developed a really a deep-seated, loving relationship. And I talked to him a lot. I mean, I talked to him a lot about all these experiences I was having. And he said, I call them glimpses, Larry. And he'd say, they're glimpses of your true nature. And he said, your goal is you want to hang on to these glimpses. And he said, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to hang on to a state. You're trying to hang on to something that comes and goes. He said, you want the source of those. That's where we want to go. We want the source that allows those experiences you're having to take place. And it's like, okay, well, how do I get the source? Where do I get there? And he said, there's nothing you can do. Funny. He said something like you did. He
Yeah.
said, somebody can't take you to a place you already are.
Yeah.
You are already there. And he
Right.
said, there's nothing you can do. And
Yeah.
he said, but you follow your enthusiasm. And I thought, what do you mean by that, Francis? And he said, do you enjoy the retreats? You enjoy reading, you enjoy the community. Maybe your intellectual understanding is only intellectual, but try to live your life as if this possibility we talk about of the one nature, of your true nature, it were true. Try to live your life from that as if everything was one. Everyone is your brother. Everything is connected. See how your life, uh, see how things operate now if you try to live from that perspective. Follow your enthusiasm. So it's hard to do. It's hard to do, but I try to the best of my ability. I'm still having some really, really good experiences, and I'm still going to the retreats with Francis. We're having contacts, you and I together, a few other
Yeah.
folks that were kind of like-minded, and it's really, really good. Things are going well for me at work. I'm retired now, so I guess I can say this. I probably didn't put as much time into my work as I should have, because I'm kind of on the internet doing some other things because I'm working from home, right? But gee,
Yeah.
for some reason, I'm hitting all my numbers. I'm exceeding
Yeah.
all the goals. My
Yeah.
job was to set up sales and distribution for this new company throughout the country, and it's all going great. So it's like, hey, leave well enough alone.
Isn't it so wild how that works?
It's amazing. I kind of took me out of the equation, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
There's stuff to do, and when there were things to do, you do it, and you move on. And I mean, I was learning to let go of the self-judgment of the all the opinions and all the things you get entangled in. And I was starting to understand some of the great traditions of the old teachings. Growing up as a Catholic and Christian, I mean, I started to really get what Jesus meant when he told his disciples, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's here. You
Yeah.
just don't see it. It's
Yeah.
here. It's here. And he would
Now.
also tell him, he'd say, for a man to enter the kingdom of heaven, he has to die unto himself. I
Right.
didn't know what that meant at the time. What he's talking about, the ego's got to go.
That's right.
This idea of you as the bomb here in the world, you got to let go of that. You got to let go of that to find the true kingdom of heaven, to find true peace and happiness and unity. Those things were making sense. The teachings of the Buddha, when they said, asked the Buddha, where is nirvana or where is heaven? And he said, it's the space between two thoughts. That made absolutely no sense to me at first. But as I meditated more and more and more, and there were times where there was a little less thinking, I noticed there was peace. There was nothing. There was
Yeah. There
nothing.
was a space.
No, there was nothing. There
Yeah.
was just
No thing.
there was just presence, just presence. But what was missing is this stupid guy Larry chattering in here over all the time about what's right, what's wrong, who likes me, who doesn't. They're stupid. This guy cut me off. Why
Yeah.
isn't this happening? And when those things would arise, I could say, you know what? I see where the peace gets covered up. I see how now the analogy of the sun's always shining, but we think it's not there when the clouds cover it, right? The sun's always there. It's always present. So I'm in a summer retreat with Francis, really having a good time. And I'm following this, and I went home after the retreat. It was in Orlando, and I'm thinking all these wonderful thoughts, and life is really it's really pretty good. I mean, I'm still wanting the brass ring, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out a way to get there. And I'm watching my buddy Rupert Spira, and he's talking to someone in his audience, and they ask him a question about, Rupert, what can I do? What can I do to achieve this? And he said, there's nothing you can do. Now, over my time with Francis and everybody else, I've heard this 1,000 times, if not more.
Absolutely.
There's nothing you can do. For some reason, John, that night when he said that, it hit me, and it hit me strong. And I got so ticked off. I was so upset.
Yeah.
I actually was depressed. I said, you know what? One more time. This is nothing but a sham. I've been kidding myself all this time. There's nothing I can do. This whole thing is BS. Just forget the whole thing. I'm so over this. I was just so upset. And immediately I remembered the words of Francis, and Francis saying, follow your enthusiasm, follow what you love, follow your bliss. And I said, you know what? I really like this though. So what? So what if I don't get there? What's the big deal? I'm pretty happy. Things are going pretty well now. My wife and I have a really good life together. what's the big deal? I love what I'm doing. I love the readings. I love talking with Francis. It's okay. It's all okay. And so I let that go. And I felt really, really pretty good. And so it's a Saturday morning, and my wife's out running errands, and I take my little buddies, the Buddhist monks, out, and I put my little CD in, and I'm sitting back listening to the chanting that I can't understand a word of it, but I'm feeling really, really nice. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to achieve anything. I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed, and I'm sitting in my favorite chair, and all of a sudden, I refer to this, I felt like a jolt. I
Yeah.
felt like I was in an elevator, and all of a sudden it stopped abruptly.
Yeah.
And everything just kind of went blank. And it makes no sense whatsoever, but my eyes are closed. So things are black, right?
Yeah.
Well, things seem to go blacker than black. I don't even know what that means or how that's possible, but everything just went away. Um, I don't know about the time, John. I just know I opened up my eyes. I was in a different place
Yeah.
in the room. I wasn't in the chair anymore. I was sitting on a sofa across the room, and I'm sitting there, and things are the same, yet nothing is the same.
Yeah.
Everything is very, very strange. And I'm looking at myself, and I don't recognize my arms and my legs. I know that makes no sense, but they looked almost alien to me. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, I think I'm dead. This must be what happens when you die. I'm dead. And I keep saying this over and over again. At the
So you
same
were
time,
asking yourself the question, am I dead? Or
yeah,
I think I'm dead.
both. I'm going, am I dead? I
Okay.
must be dead. This must be
Yeah.
what death is. And because at the same time, I feel this tremendous sense of peace.
Yeah.
And I love to use the word okayness. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't a euphoria. I
Yeah.
didn't, it was just a tremendous, tremendous peace. And about this time, I'm still thinking I'm dead, right? So I'm going, okay, well, I passed on. This is pretty cool. I mean, I'm
This is
feeling
okay.
really, I'm feeling really good. My
Yeah.
wife walks in, and I can't think of any other thing to say, but I said, "Are you dead too?" And she looked at me and she said, what's wrong? And I said, there isn't anything wrong, but I think I'm dead. I think this is death, and you must be dead too. And it was it was quite the experience. She didn't say anything after that. She just went and
She
sat
didn't say,
across the
no,
room
you're
from
not
me.
dead?
What's she going to say, right?
She didn't say you're not dead?
No, she didn't say anything. She just went and sat across the room
Oh,
and watched me. And
okay.
and it took me well, it took me quite a while, but when I mean um, it took me a little bit to, I guess, use the word stabilize, because I
Yeah.
could look out and things looked the same, yet nothing was the same.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. No,
tried to
I
get up,
get
and
that feeling.
I even
I
had
do.
difficulty walking.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the body felt strange to me. I mean, this was my experience. It just felt really weird.
Right.
And I started noticing things as a little bit of time went on. Um, Paraphrasing here, especially in the next couple days, that followed, and I noticed that, talking about thoughts, there was an incredible amount less of thinking. There
Yeah.
were I'm not talking about a couple seconds. There were periods when there was no thought. And I remember Francis saying that we would be amazed at, we think these thought streams are just constant, and they are, but the majority of them are ego driven. They're
Oh,
this
yeah.
person with all these beliefs and opinions, talking to themselves about all these things that are occurring in front of them, their likes, their dislikes, their judgments. And when that ego goes, which is what happens when the shift comes and self-awakening, arises, it's the death of the ego. And
Right.
see, so these personal thoughts they were receding. They just weren't there. Doesn't mean you don't see things. It doesn't mean you don't react and live things in life, but the perception is not coming from a me and everything that's not me. It's just like there's this, and now there's this, and there's this. And you could almost say, using the words, I'm just merely a part of this, but there is no part. There's only just one thing, you know?
Yeah, it's all one thing.
So I noticed that, and I also noticed that there were no judgments. I mean, there were no worries over a period of time, and each day, I have to say, I was even sleeping better at night, and I never slept very well. And now it was a matter of, if I'm laying there awake, I'm not going, oh my gosh, it's 2 o'clock and I'm not asleep. It's like, oh, I'm still awake. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm awake, and then now I'm not awake. Okay. But upon waking each morning, the first thing I would check, I remember, it's almost like waiting. Is it still here?
Yeah.
Is that tremendous sense of okayness and peace still here? And it was. And it was. And so I called Francis, and I had told him, what was going on. And I said, I didn't have, when this occurred, I said, and I thought I was dead, Francis. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid about death. And he said, well, that's one of the things when the shift occurs, and you accept the invitation from yourself, you no longer have a fear of death, because death is an impossibility for that which is infinite.
Yeah.
The appearance, the things, all the birds, the trees, the flowers, the person that comes into and out of life, so to speak, they come and they go. But that which allows life to come and go never goes anywhere. It's always there, always present. So I was explaining this, and I remember him saying at one time that when the ego dies, it's like a big steamship, and a steamship is cruising along, and you turn the engine off. The ship doesn't stop moving right immediately. It still continues on. So he said the task will be now is to stabilize and to bring these new things into how do you move in the world, so to speak. And again, it reminded me of Jesus being in the world, but not of the world. How do you do this? How do you do this effectively? And living from that perspective. Now, it's kind of funny, because as we're talking about this and I'm explaining all the way things are to me now, there's a little piece of me, I'm waiting for him to go, way to go, Larry. Way to go. Nice job. Way to go. You got there. You did it. Well, he didn't say anything of that. Finally, he just kind of laughed, and he goes, well, carry on. And he hung up. And for a little bit there, it's like, geez, come on, man. Not even the attaboy. I mean, and then I started laughing, because I got it. He's not going to feed into the ego. So I kept in touch with Francis, periodically. But the other thing, John, is when you talk about obsession, I mean, I was obsessed with the reading and the books and the internet and everything, and all that went away. I no longer needed the answers. I wasn't looking anymore for a validation, for an answer. I wasn't looking for it. The thing that I had wanted my entire life seemed to be there, present every moment, all the time. I just wanted to be okay. And I felt okay. I knew I wasn't going to levitate. I knew I didn't have a halo, right? I knew I couldn't walk around and chant. I knew that. And it was all okay, because everything was okay. It was the way it was supposed to be. Now, the character Larry still has likes and dislikes. I still screw up. I still have things that I don't like and I don't care for. But that's all okay too. And my teacher also told me, he said, if you're okay and you're happy 98% of the time, who cares about the other 2%? Do you really care? And I mean, I got that. And it's really true, because the way things are now, you and I've talked, John, as you mean, you just take things, you take each moment of now simply as it is. And if you don't care for it, it's like, okay, I don't care for it. but there's always this backdrop, so to speak. There's always this overriding feeling that no matter what, even in spite of, and I love that, in spite of what? Well, fill in the blank, in
Yeah.
spite of anything, in spite of whatever, it's all okay. And it'll always be okay because you've always been okay. And it's wonderful. And I guess I guess it's been to the point here now. It's been 7 years. Doesn't seem like it's been.
That's what I was going to ask. How long ago? And
Yeah, it's been 7 years. It'll actually be 7 years in 8 years. It'll be 8 years in September.
Yeah.
The big date was September 7th.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's interesting about that date, John? September 7th was also the first day I walked into an AA meeting.
Really?
Yeah. How's that? Serendipity, right? That was the first day.
I mean, so when I went to the Buddha Relics and saw you in Gainesville, that was the second time that I had been to it. The first
Yeah,
time
I knew you had been to it before.
Yeah. And
because you had recommended we go. You
yeah,
said,
I
hey,
mean,
you got to see this.
since that first trip for me, we were talking, I was going to ask how long was, did that shift occur? And you're going on 8 years. I time and space since that first trip for me to the Buddha, I don't know. I mean, I know I've done things. I know the events have occurred, and I do recall the, experience, shall we say, of going to the Buddha relics. I couldn't tell you when that was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What year? I don't know. And I still have trouble with chronological order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trouble with, okay, it did occur, but I don't know if it was 2015 or 2010 or 2018. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
And it's
clue.
really irrelevant.
It is, but to be able to function here and you still have to have the ability to be able to communicate. And I mean, because for me, after that first Buddha relic experience, I had a very difficult time just functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened. I mean, that was going on for several years.
Right. Right.
And I know you and I talked a lot about, well, we talked a lot, during those times. And I was kind of trying to write my book, and I know that I couldn't write. I don't know why. I could tell you stories.
Yeah, I remember that.
You'd email them back to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. But I couldn't
I
write them.
remember.
And I don't know why. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, like I told you, for that quite a few months after after the shift, or after the death of Larry.
Yeah, right.
And I could see where Francis talked about stabilizing, because
Yeah.
and I know it's been difficult, in those instances for you. And there were times where trying to get this new perspective, so to speak, and operate with that, because you're right. I mean, life goes on. I mean, it goes on every millisecond of now, and it's a beautiful way. You know how long it takes to live in now? Not very long, because it's now and now and now.
Wow.
And you talk about space time, when you let go of that, and you realize that it's not possible to take the past, which doesn't exist, and you can't link it with the present, and you can't link it with the future, and you can't link the future with the past. I mean, there are no links, because there's only now and now and now. So you live from that moment, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
It really is. It really is.
And I just wanted to say, for whoever views this, that if you are seeking, and you're truly looking for peace and contentment, I would just say, as you had told me, it's here. It's always here. It's available to you. It's always present. It's eternal. It doesn't go anywhere. You just simply have to be able to clear the clutter away for the brilliance to shine through. So I would tell you peace and love and happy travels to you all.
There you
And if
go.
anyone would happen to have any questions or anything also, I mean, I would be more than happy. You could always reach out to me at my email address. It's larrykeithkinn@gmail.com. And, that's fine. No problems. But
Yeah.
we can chat, John, you want to, I wanted to thank you again for the opportunity,
Oh, no.
to do this.
It's my honor to hear this. It's actually, having spoke to you like this before, I would, ask you to consider there is two other people that I think it would be kind of fun to have a conversation, a Zoom conversation.
Absolutely.
In the
Be happy
form of,
to.
yeah, I don't know where it would go, but the only thing that I can sort of say on that note is that, you mentioned, and I've heard this from both of them as well, that there's those periods where for an awful long time, this is such a lonely ride.
Yes.
And, and now, shall we say that, okay, we've kind of stabilized, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to have a conversation with all of us. I don't know where it goes, but I think it would be fun to do, and I invite you to do it. And if you'd like, I'll see if I can. I've talked to them about it as well, and they're open to it. So if you're
Sure.
open,
Yeah, absolutely. I
we
wanted to talking along that line. I wanted to mention one thing. Of course, after the shift occurred, and I mean you when you have something so beautiful, you'd like to share it, with
yeah.
others.
Oh, I
And
know.
so I don't know how you view it. You want to say the words, but I went down that route with members of my family. In most cases, it wasn't real well received
Yeah.
because I'm talking
I
to them about things that they've never heard of.
yeah.
Well, particularly in Western culture, for sure, these are things you've never heard of. You never heard of Vedanta, Advaita. I mean, the
Right.
ancient Hindi teachings and Buddhist teachings, and if you try to talk to anybody who's a Christian about the true meanings of what Jesus talked about and what he did, that really doesn't go well.
No, it
So
does.
it can be lonely. Like-minded community is a wonderful thing. It's great to
Well, and I
share.
think that's what I'm pushing for. Number
I think
one.
it'd be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I'll see if I can get that together, and we'll, maybe I'll email us around and see what happens, and see if we can get everybody on the same page.
Okay.
Uh, there was a comment I was going to make, and it concerned Bhagavan Das and John. Well, oh well.
It'll come to you when it does.
Whenever it comes, it comes. I don't know. I can't remember it. It seemed important at the time, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyhow, uh, Larry, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love you, brother.
You coming to Atlanta anytime soon?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm having knee replacement surgery next month, so
Oh,
I've got to get that out of the way, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I'm sure I will be at some point. But I definitely will let you know.
well, you got to watch out for those holes in the outfield in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
I'm not sprinting like I used to either.
And I mean, Pittsburgh is notorious for potholes. So, I'm not surprised that that had happened.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, Larry, I appreciate everything, and I look
Sure.
forward to the next time.
Yep. See ya.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye now. Let's see, stop this somehow. And